Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Welcome in. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Happy Tuesday. Round 2 of the NHL playoffs are here already. Yeah. Feels like round 1 just ended last night. It did. We're going to talk about that. We're going to preview round 2 and give you our predictions. We're going to crap on Jacob Trouba for a while because he deserves it. Sure. What else are we going to do, fellas? We got a whole bunch of stuff coming up. Stuff and things. Before we get started, make sure you smash that like button on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube page. Podcast listeners, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Make sure you're following or subscribed on your favorite podcast app or all the podcast apps. That's helpful. You can do that too. 5-star review, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, very, very great. And we are less than 100 followers away from 1,000 on our
6,000.
Twitter. From 6,000, thank you. I knew that, and I said it wrong. From 6,000 followers on our Twitter account. So if you don't follow us on Twitter yet, what are you waiting for? Go do it at CHGO_Blackhawks. Mm-hmm. There's all the promotional stuff we need to tell you about. We got some news today, though, fellas. We are going to Nashville for the draft. Let's go. Meow, 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 meow. Very excited about that.
Oh, whoa.
Very excited about that.
It's a tornado.
I accidentally went with siren.
There's a tornado coming.
It says it's siren and air horn, so I went with
air horn.
I like the siren. We are invading Nashville.
I went on my little...
That's loud for the rest of the office.
Morning walk this morning, and apparently the first Tuesday of the month is when they test the air raids in Wilmette and Glenview. And
our neighborhood, too.
They definitely work. And after like 10 minutes, I was like, okay, enough.
They're working.
Seriously. It was a little much. But yes, Nashville should be fun.
Our neighborhood does a vocal alert. Like
tornado.
It's like the siren goes off and then it says like it just is like this is a test of the emergency and it's like I watched HBO's series Chernobyl. Yeah. So when I hear that vocal thing go off, I'm like, ugh, I don't like how that sounds to me. Like it gives me a shiver.
Everything is fine.
Yeah. Everything's fine. Stay in your homes. Like, no thanks.
It's a little unnerving when you don't know it's coming.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, oh.
When you have to check your watch and the calendar and be like, okay.
And you're actually standing, like walking outside and you hear it and you're like,
My dog was barking at it this morning. Just barking at the air.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Dogs will do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good time. Yeah, Nashville. It's going to be a lot of fun. Wherever they pick, I think it's going to be fun regardless. Should be a good time. We're going to be down there covering the draft. Rubbing elbows with all the big wigs in hockey, and who knows? Sky's the limit.
Yeah, and Narfin says, so no live show during the draft. Not sure exactly what the format's going to be yet. I think we're probably going to be covering the draft and then do a post-draft sort of a thing, so I don't think we'll be live reacting to the draft. However, a good reason to follow us on Twitter at CHGO_Blackhawks is we'll probably jump on there, do some live quick react stuff, and then we'll do a full-on long show after the draft, because the Hawks have multiple firsts. So there will be stuff to do. But, yeah, because we're going to be down there covering it, hopefully getting some guests, hopefully doing those sort of things, getting some interviews we can play. It will be a little bit different from last year's show.
Yeah.
But remember, last year the draft started. They had the DeBrincat stuff that they acquired. Was it that day or the day before?
It was on the way to on my way to the studio. Was when the when that trade happened.
Yeah, so there wasn't as it was kind of more uncertain. This year is a little more certainty about when and where they'll be picking. So it'll be a little different this year. But hey, it's going to be a historic day for the Hawks. This is one of the biggest days, regardless of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. They're going to get their best prospect on that day.
It's the biggest draft that they've had since 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can argue it's bigger because 2007 there wasn't as much. You weren't trying to
expectations were different.
Yeah, majority of the fans who were around for the first Stanley Cup weren't invested yet. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the 06-07 season wasn't a season about trying to get the number 1 overall pick. They lucked
They
into
did that organically.
Yeah, they lucked into that. They moved up a bunch of spots and got Patrick Kane. There wasn't the focus like it was, and it wasn't a franchise just 8 years removed from a championship. It was a franchise 40-something years removed from a championship. So you can argue, yes, that draft what turned out to be one of the biggest in Blackhawks history. But I think as far as leading into it, this can be considered the biggest draft they've had in quite some time, especially when we figure out where they're going to be in just 6 days. Thank you, baby Jesus.
I'm not fast.
A couple people in the chat are concerned if the Predators organization is actually going to let you guys attend as Hawks fans.
'em.
They're going to raise a banner for hosting a draft.
You heard those sirens. We're coming in DX style.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll just do the shows. We'll do the shows from Tootsie's then. No biggie.
Sure.
Playlist.
No, but sure, whatever. I don't care. I don't drink at any of them. We'll go wherever one you want to go to. I don't care. It's all. They're all gonna. Every band there only plays Folsom Prison Blues from Johnny Cash.
Well, that's why I go to Layla's.
It's like every time. It's like you want to hear a Johnny Cash song, yeah, and it's full. Like, come on, you guys are all super talented musicians. We're in Nashville. You can play a different Johnny Cash song. People won't get mad at you.
So this is a comment for 6 people on Earth, but if you like Jack White's album Lazaretto, the fiddle player on that is Lily Mae Riche, and she plays at Layla's every night. And
Every night?
Almost every night.
quite
And
the gig.
that's why that's my spot, because she's excellent, and they play originals and covers, and it's awesome. Anyway,
I'm down to see a fiddle player.
where do we want to start? We want to start with last night's action.
Talk about the game last
Let's
night.
wrap
Let's
up
do that.
round 1.
Let's talk about
do
the Rangers losing, baby.
And losing, like,
Dramatically.
wonderfully. That
Way
was
to make my night. That
Yeah.
was so
fun.
good.
That
That
was
was
fun.
so good. They had no chance in that game. None. They got 3 first-period power plays, couldn't do anything with it. The Devils just owned them at 5-on-5.
Yeah.
Owned them.
Yep.
They had no shot in that game. And anytime they even got the puck in the zone, it was one shot from far out, and they were back out the other way.
The Rangers look so good in Game 6, and I do think part of it is they got a lot of bounces in that game. Like, all the puck luck went their way in Game 6, and maybe it felt a little more off kilter than it actually was. But after that, it was sort of like, well, the Rangers have sort of found their game again. They're flying high. Zibanejad scores in Game 6, so he's kind of got the monkey off his back. And the Devils were just like, no, you're not winning this game.
Devils became a completely different team from Game 3 on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just kind of like, it's one of those situations where maybe it just feels like the team needed kind of like that, like, whoa, like that jolt of like, okay, yes, it's playoff time. Like we need to hit another level, and they absolutely did. And this Rangers team, like with all the moves that they made, all the talent they brought in, should have had a much better performance in this series against a Devils team that, yes, they're young and fast and exciting. Like the Rangers and the guys that they brought in, the been there before aspect. This was a team that went to the Eastern Conference Final last year. Like this team should have, on experience and the talent that they had, been able to take care of the Devils. And this Devils team is exciting. They're fast, and when you can skate by a team in the playoffs, like if you can exploit that, you can go far. So this Devils team is gonna be very exciting.
Narfin says the Devils remind him of the 09 Hawks. We've said that a couple times. Jason T says the Rangers looked about as assertive as the Hawks did in 2017. I agree with that. The difference is
Rangers
the
won 3
2017
games.
Hawks had an excuse because they had just won 3 cups, then went to the conference. Like it had been a long years and years of long playoffs where these guys were just kind of out of gas.
Yeah.
You know, all the mileage had sort of caught up with the Hawks at that point. That's not the case for the Rangers. Yeah, they got to the East Finals, but it's not like they've been year after year getting deep runs in the playoffs.
I think last year was a little smoke and mirrors where it made the Rangers think they were further along in their rebuild than they were. I mean, they went and got Panarin, Zibanejad. You know, they didn't really do full teardown per se.
Yeah.
And obviously getting this number 2 overall and the number 1 overall pick in back-to-back years helps, even though you could argue that both of those guys kind of suck. or at least not worth where they're at.
Your first overall pick and your second overall pick in
Got
back-to-back
0
years are your
points.
third liners.
And they got 0 points in a 7-game series.
Not ideal.
And we should remind people, by the way, that Lafreniere was the no doubt number 1, and Kakko was the no doubt number 2
Yeah.
in those drafts.
Well, he's no doubt number 2, that's for sure.
So, I'm not saying that Bedard and Fantilli are headed down that road, but just know that nothing is guaranteed. Bedard is about as guaranteed as
For
you
2
get.
years, we heard Shane Wright was the overall number 1 pick, and he went 4th and then played in juniors this year for most of the season.
Well, yeah, and not to derail the conversation about
sorry.
the playoffs,
My fault.
but I feel like there are ways that those guys played that you could say like, oh, when it translates to the NHL, like they might not be the same player, like Shane Wright and Lafreniere. I think we've seen enough of Connor Bedard's shot alone can make him a very good NHL
His release
player.
is going to get him 30 goals minimum a year.
Yeah.
But back to the Rangers, last year,
You also had Chris Kreider
Chris
last year.
Kreider had 50 freaking goals last year.
The best season he's ever had.
And
will
ever
have.
going to have.
Yeah.
Like nobody thought he could ever do 50. And when 26 of them were on the power play.
Yeah.
Like, and he had 5 power play goals in the first 2 games of this series and nothing after. So, like, you had Chris Kreider getting 50. You had Igor Shesterkin having one of the
Vezina
best
season.
And you knew those 2 guys were going to come back to earth a little bit. Now, Shesterkin was still very good this year, just not where he was last year. And you can say that in the playoffs, too. But, Artemi Panarin, 2 assists in game 1. Nothing after that.
That's bad.
Nothing. Invisible for a lot of that series. Patrick Kane had what, 6 points in 7 games, 5 assists?
Yeah.
But a lot of that was done in those first 2 games.
Early games, yeah.
He was noticeable last night, but my God, against this Devils team, he looked slow. Even when he was we know he always looks slow on defense. Even when he had the puck, he was getting caught from behind in this series, left and right, all the time. The Devils may be the fastest team in the history of hockey right now. They are ridiculous. Even John Marino, that goal he scored last night, I was like, where the hell did that come from?
From him.
And the Devils beat the Rangers in 7 games, and between Nico Hischier, Timo Meier, and Jesper Brett, they got 1 empty net goal at the end of Game 7, and they still won that series. That's impressive.
And that's a huge.
And once those guys eventually start scoring, which they will,
right,
that makes them super dangerous.
It's a huge equalizer at this time of year. Is if your top stars aren't going, if your depth is carrying you, like eventually those top stars usually will find their game,
pressure
and
off.
it's just going to elevate you even more.
But those 3 combined for 31, 63. And where's Timo Meier? Why isn't he on
Is this regular season?
Yes.
Yeah.
Those guys combined for 80-something goals in the regular season. Over 80 goals. Over 90 goals, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
almost 100 goals combined between the 3 of them. And
you got nothing.
You got
in
an
that
empty
series.
netter at the end of Game 7, and you still won. That tells me the Devils are...
There's more to go.
They're a complete team. I don't think they got enough credit. And the fun part about this is this series kind of paralleled their regular season because remember their home opener? They were like 1-4 or whatever it was.
Fire Lindy.
They were to fire Lindy Ruff.
Sorry, Lindy.
7 games later, they were apologizing to him.
Yeah.
At the end of the first 2 games of this series, people were writing them off.
Yep.
And they said, "Watch this."
Yeah.
Well, it felt when you saw the first couple games, I do think you saw the Devils a little bit like shell-shocked by the pace and kind of the spotlight, and it's the Rangers, it's MSG, like all that stuff, I think it caught them off guard. But then once they settled down, we talked about it yesterday. What made the Kraken so impressive was there was no nerves from them.
Yeah.
They just were businesslike. They just stuck to their plan. I think the Devils were a little bit shocked when things started, and then the talent took over. And like you said, although Timo Meier did not have a point in the series, he was still super effective. Mm-hmm. And I think there were a lot of times we saw regular season and playoffs with Marian Hossa, where maybe the points weren't coming, but the other stuff was still happening where the value was still as high as ever. I'm not saying that Timo Meier is Marian Hossa quite yet, but similar-ish kind of player.
Yeah, the guys that you want to perform and put up points, sometimes they don't, but they still have a positive impact on the game.
Yeah,
And
what they're doing leads to others
Yeah.
producing points.
On the Timo Meier thing, by the way, I checked in with our buddy James Nichols. We had him on after all the Barry Trotz craziness. Remember that? That's
Yeah,
when
that was
on.
this time last year.
And I asked him what this latest was on Timo Meier. This was this morning. He said, no update as of last night. I spoke to him in the locker room, though. Nose was all bloodied and possibly broken. Said he wasn't feeling good. Said he was feeling good. Important misread by me. Sorry. He was feeling good and was in good spirits. I said, do you expect he plays? He said, hard to say. I'd be surprised if he missed much time. Maybe a game, but that's just a hunch. And then later in the day, he said, sounds like Timo won't miss time. So it looks like Timo Meier will be there. If you missed it.
He did come back to the bench before the end of the game. Didn't get back in the game, but
He
was
looked
back on the
wobbly
bench.
after that hit.
Well,
And it's kind of the talk of hockey today. It is yet another. Our friend Shayna Goldman wrote about it. It is legal, but it is dirty. Hit by Jacob Trouba. We are not allowed to play highlights on the show. We don't want to get sued, but we've got a couple screen caps, and there you see it on your screen.
Center of the chest, Rangers fans want to say.
The point of impact is Timo Meier's head. And before you even say it, I know you're going to say, well, you shouldn't be crossing the center of the ice with your head down. Correct. However, we have seen game after game when Jacob Trouba is not on the ice, guys opt out of making that hit because they don't want to hurt somebody. Jacob Trouba is going to end a career someday.
Yep.
It's a matter of time. He did it to Jujhar Khaira. Jujhar Khaira looked like he might never play again after that hit.
He tried to do it to Athanasiou.
He tried to do it to Athanasiou.
Back-to-back
Look at
games
these
last year.
still after still. Yes, it is shoulder tucked. Yes, his feet are on the ice. He is aiming for the head. And Greg, you made a good point that you could see the puck is away. Before the show, you made this point. The puck's away. That's interference at least.
How there was no penalty at all called on that is just an absolute joke.
But you said it. He was heading into the defensive zone and then saw Meier, and he's like, oh, he's vulnerable. Let me go get him.
Charging, interference, roughing, something. How you let that happen and not call it anything? That would have been the perfect situation to call the 5-minute major and review it. They've done such a good job at that throughout the whole playoffs. Yeah. I've been digging that. How do you not do it there?
There
were the refs, and I'm not the type that harps on refereeing, but man, Gord Dwyer in particular just seemed to just refuse to call penalties against the Rangers last night. Refused.
It's very frustrating because it is seriously a matter of time.
This is why Jacob Trouba keeps doing this, because he has paid zero consequences for his actions. Back-to-back games last year. The game after Jujhar Khaira left on a stretcher, he did it again in Colorado.
He did to McKinnon, right?
McKinnon left the game on a stretcher. Back-to-back games, not a fine, not a suspension, nothing.
Like, what's it going to take?
It's going to take him to kill a guy.
Yeah, I mean...
Or unless someone kills him first, which...
and here's the thing. Like, he's a good player. He doesn't need to do that. And look, I know the Don Cherry Rock'em Sock'em videotapes that old people like me and Greg used to own back in the day, made up of these big hits and these massive... And Scott Stevens, like, just... freight training Eric Lindros, and those were all exciting. But now as we know more
it's not that time anymore.
about the impact of head injuries and concussions and what it means for people's health down the road, those hits that used to make me jump out of my seat make me cringe now because they're not necessary.
I think the biggest problem is, and someone in our comments just said it, the NHL and Gary Bettman do not acknowledge the connection between CTE and concussions and head injuries and the extreme contact that the sport has, and that is where we're not going to that is why there's going to be a roadblock to having any changes, because because the way the league sees it is everyone's freaking out about hits to the head, but hits to the head are just part of the game. It's just part of the game. It's what we know is going to happen. But the hits to the head, I don't think they're a big problem. That's Gary Bettman.
That's
the problem.
It is part of the game, but the consequence needs to be part of the game too. Look,
absolutely.
The IHF does not allow head hits, intentional or not. You make your point. It was your point. I'm not stealing it.
No,
you said it perfectly over there on the leather couch.
If you accidentally flip the puck directly over the glass in the defensive zone, you get a delay a game penalty no matter what.
Right.
If your stick accidentally comes up, if you're trying to lift a guy's stick, but you accidentally hit him in the face, what happens? You get a high sticking penalty, regardless. So how come it's not the same with head hits? If you're aiming for a guy's chest and he bends over and then you get him in the head, I don't care. Head contact should be automatic penalty, accidental or not. Other penalties are called whether you intended to do it or not. This should be the same thing. You hit a guy in the head, automatic 5-minute major. That's it. End of story. That's the only way you're going to get this stuff to go away. That's the only way Jacob Trouba is going to stop this nonsense. And of course, it's people with Rangers logos in their Twitter feed, in their avatars that are saying it's a textbook hit. Blow it out your ass.
No, it's not.
The guy is a scumbag.
From a casual standpoint, as someone who was less familiar with all of the nuances of the rules and just looking at, I saw the replay and just looking at the still, like you're right, Jay, it's like a cringe when you just see that approach. And it's curious that it surprises me that is still a legal hit. Like you see that in the NFL, they've done, like that was a huge part of the game. They've done everything they can to remove defenseless receivers and going over the middle like that. And at some point, you gotta make concessions when it comes to player safety.
There's still that contact in football. You're still going to get helmet-to-helmet hits because of how fast and how physical the game is. Hockey is just as fast, just as physical as football. There's going to be times where guys get hit in the head. You can't completely erase that from the game, but the point is you have to acknowledge the impact that those hits have on the players that are suffering from them, and you have to have consequence for the players that continuously put those hits out. And you mentioned Scott Stevens. One of the craziest highlights that you'll ever see is from I believe it was 2003 Stanley Cup between the Devils and the Mighty Ducks when they were still the Mighty Ducks. Scott Stevens knocks Paul Kariya out cold, unconscious on the ice in the center of the ice with a play very similar to what Timo Meier and Trouba were involved in. And Paul Kariya is out on the ice. You see him come to with his breath hitting his visor. He leaves the game, comes back, and scores a goal. And Gary Thornton has one of the greatest goal calls of all time. It's one of the craziest highlights you'll ever see. A few years ago, TSN did a follow-up and basically found Paul Kariya in his life after hockey, where he basically disappeared. And I encourage people to kind of to find that feature. You can find it on YouTube. I know TSN usually has their content geo-locked in the States, but you can find it on YouTube. And just kind of see where Paul Kariya is today. He has no memory of that time of his life. And the amount of concussions that he's not alone in hockey. The amount of concussions,
got 2 really bad ones.
Yeah, there's so many stories like that of guys that are just the way that the game was played, the way that hits were policed differently. It's taking years away from these guys' lives, more than they ever really, more than they kind of are signing up for. Like, yeah, I'm probably going to have leg issues, hip issues, back issues because of how physical it is. To have head injuries and neck injuries and things that could take away physical abilities, take away your years of your life, your memory, like the league needs to be more serious about this.
Absolutely. And look, as we learn more, like you put seatbelts in cars, as you learn that seatbelts save lives. Like as knowledge advances and evolves, then you adapt the rules. And as you learn that head injuries are not just, he's got his bell rung, he's a little woozy for a minute,
right,
that they have long-term, long-lasting repercussions, then the game needs to change too. Yeah. And they owe it to their players to protect their players. Who wants to see 20 years from now Timo Meier, unable to speak, or Jujar Kara, struggling with the guy who's about to get married, probably looking ahead at the next 20, 30 years of his life. Jonathan Taves, is that how many concussions?
Players.
Do you want to be at the Hawks convention
now.
in 2045 and see Jonathan Taves come out like barely functional?
Right. Guys are more aware of their long-term health now.
Yeah.
Well, you would think the owners at some point would want to step in too, because they're investing millions and millions of dollars in these guys.
Right.
For the it sounds impersonal, but don't you want returns on your investment?
Yeah.
Don't you want to make sure the guy you're paying $30 million over to the next 3 years actually plays 3 years?
Right.
From a business sense, it makes sense to get rid of it. Yeah. I mean, it's obvious they don't care about the players, so we won't. But they care about their money.
Right.
Don't they want to get a return on their investment? It's kind of hard to get a return on your investments, when a guy's, not on the ice, because you're letting him get hit in the head.
Janet Orr says, until hockey fixes their gatekeeper problem, these things will not change. Hockey is a huge get off my lawn club.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but part of that generation is on a timer. They're not
Sure.
They're running like, it's time. I've been saying this for 2-3 years. Gary Bettman has run his course. It's time to get somebody else in there. Somebody with some newer, fresh ideas. Somebody that's actually going to acknowledge that CTE is a real thing and getting hit in the head causes it. Somebody that's not a science denier, but it's not going to happen because he keeps the owners happy, and that's who his bosses are.
It's a different show for a different day, but how Gary Bettman makes the owners happy is beyond me, because the sport's popularity since he's taken over has gone down.
The NHL could be worth so much more than it is.
And how many organizations have failed in his tenure? Atlanta, Arizona's failing.
Hey, but we're going to give Atlanta another team now.
Right. Like I don't get it. Whatever.
Yeah, that's another topic, but
we got all summer for that.
Yeah, and
this is why we need Snoop Dogg to be an owner.
That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. Free medical marijuana for the league.
All right, let's preview round 2 coming up next. But first, we're going to tell you about some beers.
Yeah, beers. Hey, Goose Island, they got good beers. And they are the proud sponsor and official beer of us here at CHGO. And they have been Chicago's beer since 1988. And how can you deny it with their deep and talented roster full of beers like the Goose IPA, a 6-time medal winner at the Great American Beer Fest, always in style with a citrus aroma and bold hop finish. You have the Tropical Beer Hug, a dry hopped Imperial IPA, which is 9.9% ABV that is dangerously easy to drink. One of those will take care of you on your summer's days. The Full Pocket Pills, the everyday beer. It's what the beer brewers are drinking. And, of course, the 312, the staple of Goose Island's deep and talented roster. Grab an ultra-fresh brewery-exclusive beer at the Goose Island Original Brew House located on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park. Or you can go to their tap room at Fulton Street in Westtown. That is Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer.
Eventually, the sun is going to come out and stay out for long periods of time.
It was out for a little bit today.
Yeah, we're going to get it to where it's actually going to be out for like multiple days in a row.
Maybe
That'd be nice.
Eventually. So when that does happen, you'll be able to take on that giant ball of light in the sky with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class product just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. I think they're way too humble at Shady Rays. They're better than any of those expensive pairs. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures and driving home in rush hour traffic. That's not all, because that's the only outdoor adventures I get these days. That's not all. Shady Rays offers you the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on the very first day, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. You can wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you make your purchase. And together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the United States. Through the Shady Rays Impact Initiative, they're doing everything from building play sets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS at the outdoor adventure of a lifetime. Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. Not only are you going to look good, but you're going to feel good because you're going to help do wonderful things for other people. And if you don't love your Shady Rays, and you will, trust me, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There is zero risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And exclusive for our lovely, lovely CHGO listeners, Shady Rays is giving you their best deal this season. Go to ShadyRays.com, use the promo code CHGO for 50% off any order that contains 2 or more pairs of sunglasses. The more you buy, the more you save. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
And a lot of stars.
That's right. All right, before we get into round 2, why don't we recap how we did in round 1?
Recap our picks.
Yeah, that's not great.
Why don't we do that?
That's
Gee, I wonder who had the most correct.
wasn't me.
Yeah.
This side of the bracket was not good for me.
Yeah, we so Jay and I both had, or the three of us all had the Hurricanes. So we did pretty good there. The three of us also had Boston. Even
though I said they were ripe for an upset, I still picked them.
Then the Dallas-Minnesota series, Jay and I both had Dallas, and Greg went with Minnesota.
I regretted that pick the second I made it.
That was one of those where you could have been happy with either selection. And then the three of us all had Edmonton, so we all got a good check mark there. So we move on to the next side. I had the Rangers, so that was my mistake. You two had the Devils.
Even though Jay picked the Rangers last night, just got to point that out.
Well,
you're right.
Taste change. Jay and I picked the Leafs. Greg, of course, picked the Bolts, but the Leafs made that. I
picked the better team of the series. They just didn't win.
That happens sometimes. And then me and Greg had the Golden Knights. Jay had the Jets.
Yeah.
And then myself, Jay, and Greg all believed in the Avalanche, and we were all fools for doing it. So that's where we ended up there. So Jay and I correctly picked 5 of 8. Greg was 4 of 8. And but you have something to cheer for. Your better half is leading our bracket, apparently.
Yes, Stacy, she filled out our ESPN bracket challenge. I think she had 7 of the 8 first rounds. Like, she
pretty good.
Had both Seattle and Florida winning in the first round. And when she made those picks, I was like, oh, that's
fun.
That's good. I think those are great picks. And I'm like, oh my God. And now I'm like,
her host a show.
She's a genius. Yeah, anytime, man. I'll stay home for a night. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
hey,
happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. All right, action starts tonight. Game 1 of Panthers and Maple Leafs at 6 p.m. That is on ESPN, and the game is in Toronto. I picked the Leafs to win the cup, so I'm going to keep that pick. I'm picking the Leafs in 6.
I'm also going Leafs in 6. I really want to see where this team can go now that they've finally gotten the dark cloud away from their head of getting past the first round. I said it yesterday, underestimate the Panthers at your own peril, and I am going to do that. But I think the Leafs are a really talented team. I think they got the right play. They got the right mixture of players now. I think in past years they were really talented, but they didn't have the right mixture. I think they have the right mixture now. And this Panthers team is going to be tough. Matthew Tkachuk is really stepped his game up to another level. He's
11 points.
He's a player that loves to be in the spotlight, and this is an opportunity to do it. So it's going to be a tough series, but I'm sticking with the Leafs. And again, 99% of the reason I'm doing this is because I want to see Jake McCabe succeed. So I'm going with the Leafs.
I'm going to be the only one picking the Panthers. Panthers in 7. And I'm not doing it just because of my despise of
That's part of it, though.
Maple Leafs fans. It sure is. But
it's a big chunk of it.
No, I actually watched the Panthers and we're like, hey, if they could beat the Bruins, they can definitely beat the Maple Leafs.
Oh, yeah.
If they get the goaltending, and then Alex Lyon was the first off the ice this morning, which usually means starter.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Mind games.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That's very interesting.
It could be some gamesmanship. The Lions played well against the Leafs in the last couple of weeks of the season. I don't see how you can do that though. The way Borowski played those last couple of games, we'll see. Listen. Nobody forechecks better in hockey than the Florida Panthers. And that is going to wear a team down. We just saw it happen to the Boston Bruins. They could not keep up with them. They ran them down. When Boston didn't win in Game 5 to close them out, Florida had them right where they wanted them. If Toronto gets a chance to put them away early and don't, watch out.
I agree. Look, I really do think this can go either way. I really do. And I will say the one thing that does good against a strong forecheck is speed. I think the Leafs are faster than the Bruins. Just their offensive talent is not only is it really, really high end, but it's also very fast and very skilled. So I don't know. If the Panthers won, I would not be shocked at all. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Yeah.
We forget last year they're the President's Trophy winning team.
Yep.
They were a Stanley Cup favorite. They fell short, and then everyone kind of wrote them off.
Well, they had a new coach.
Yeah.
They traded away two of their big pieces. Jonathan Huberdeau is the franchise's all-time leading scorer. Like, Hart Trophy candidate last year was amazing, and they traded away one of their best defensemen in Uyghur. And then you got Tkachuk, who had a Hart Trophy worthy season, but it just took a while for them to get things going. They dealt with some injuries during the year. They're peaking at the right time. They've been maybe the best team in hockey since March 1st.
This is the series I'm most excited to watch.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun. I just think eventually that Panthers forecheck and relentlessness and Matthew Tkachuk eventually wears them down to where they're just like, I don't want to deal with this crap anymore.
Well, that's a guy who not only is he going to score on you, he's going to piss you off and get you off your game, just like his father did. And, I mean, soon we'll be having the discussion who is a better player, Keith or Matthew.
Yeah.
I think we already have
close.
the answer to that.
I don't know. Keith scored 50 goals. I mean,
but
in a time when 50 goals were not common.
Yeah.
Keith is really good. Don't let time and the fact that he
Keith
played for
was
the
really
Blues and
good, but
Coyotes.
I think Matthew does more than Keith did.
Could be. Well, they're both very good. Next up tonight, 8:30 on ESPN, Kraken at Stars. That is the next series. As much as I would like to root for the Kraken, I'm going to root for the Kraken. I can't pick them to win. I think the Stars are going to win it in 7. I do think the Kraken, as we talked about yesterday, their system, their play, their style, their kind of nothing to loseness, if that's a word, will keep them in games, and they're not going to panic. I think they're going to hang in there and give the Stars all they can handle. But when you look at the depth of talent on Dallas, Jason Robertson, who's one of the game's young stars, Rupe Hintz, and you've got the old guys kind of having a bit of a resurgence. They're really deep. They're really good. Oh, yeah, and they have Jake Ottinger in goal. I think Dallas is going to win it in 7, but I think it's going to be a hell of a series.
Yeah, I agree. I got Dallas winning in 6. I wanted to pick the Kraken. I still think they can win this series, obviously, especially if Philip Grubauer continues to play the way he's played. But I just think there's a more offensive talent there. Not to say that Colorado didn't, but for the most part, Dallas is healthy. That's a difference. We'll see if Joe Pavelski plays. Jarrett McCann did not travel to Dallas, so he's going to be out for at least those first 2 games.
Yep.
I mean, Seattle isn't a team that relies on superstars, so to say, but he's one of their best players, and I'm sure they've got guys that are going to plug in and they'll keep plugging along. But that's a big guy to lose for an extended period of time. Jake Ottinger, that's the difference in this one.
Yeah.
Jake Ottinger is better than Georgiev on the Avalanche.
Yeah.
They've got more. They're more balanced than the Avalanche. The Avalanche were kind of top heavy due to injuries, whereas the Stars can get you with 4 lines, as well as Seattle can. It's going to be a very evenly matched series. I'm picking Stars in 6 because Jake Ottinger is going to continue his rise to superstardom in this postseason.
He's a guy that can win a game they don't deserve to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Philip Grubauer did that arguably 4 times in that series against Colorado.
Yeah, right.
I just don't know if he could keep that up. I have more faith in Jake Ottinger keeping up his play than Philip Grubauer.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
That's and that's basically the tipping point in this series is which version of Grubauer is going to show up. Because like you just said, I trust Jake Ottinger. I don't know if you can trust Philip Grubauer. Like, I think it's what he did in the last series was really impressive. Can he do it again? I think that's the big question. And I think outside of Ottinger, Dallas just has a lot of different ways that they can play a game. You know, they can manipulate it to who their opponent is and still be successful. So I have Dallas also in 6. I want to see Pavelski win a cup. I think that'd be really fun. I want to see him get on the ice and be healthy, and then also win a cup.
Yeah. The thing about Grubauer, too, is you can live with a goalie like that if you've got, like, a star power-filled team. And, like, hey, just go out there and be good enough.
Make enough saves.
But as you get deeper into playoffs, you need more than that. Mm-hmm. You need more than that. Exactly. Yeah, like you said. Yeah, that's correct with the Avalanche. But, like, I don't know if the Kraken have the talent to overcome Grubauer being just good enough. I think he has, at this point and beyond, if they somehow beat the Stars, he's going to have to be great. And I don't know, maybe a game, maybe 2. I just don't think he's the kind of goalie that can carry you to a cup or to a cup final.
Yeah, Grubauer has to be better than Jake Ottinger 4 times in this series. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
2, maybe 3 times, not 4 times.
It's a tough challenge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right, next up, starting on Wednesday at 6 p.m., also on ESPN, Devils at Hurricanes. Fellas, I don't know about you.
This could be a good one.
For me, this was the hardest series to pick, and I went with the Devils. Even though I was kind of like, I don't know if I really believe this. Usually when I pick a team in 7, it means I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's what I did with the Devils here. Just really impressed by how they came out in Game 7 last night and were just excellent.
Yeah.
They were so good. They were dominant. And like we talked about earlier, their star players are going to start contributing on the score sheet eventually. Good to see that Timo Meier looks like he's not going to miss any time. As much as I hate to root against Tavo, he's hurt, so I can do it.
Yeah, he's not playing.
You know, he's not playing, so it's fine. I don't have that moral conundrum anymore. So I am taking the Devils in 7.
I think the Devils' speed is going to eventually be too much for the Hurricanes to deal with, and I think the Hurricanes are kind of. I think eventually the injuries and the players that they're missing is going to catch up to them. It caught up to the Avalanche right away. I think it catches up to Carolina in this series. So I went Devils in 6 because I think a Maple Leafs Devils Eastern Conference final would be just delicious.
Be really fun.
I would love that. So yeah, I got Devils in 6. I want to see more of this team.
I too am picking the Devils in 7. I think it's a very evenly matched series. Carolina, before the season starts, a team I picked to go to the Stanley Cup final. But as you just mentioned, Mario, the injuries, if they were fully healthy, if they had Svechnikov, if they had Tavo, if they had Pacioretty, I would say Hurricanes in 6. Mm-hmm. But they don't. And this Devils team, much like the Panthers' forechecking eventually wears you down, the Devils' speed is going to wear you down quicker. Like, you can't keep up with them. And if you try, you're going to be gassed. So Rob Brendamore is a great coach, and I'm sure he's got some game plans to help counteract that and slow them down a bit. They're going to try and muck up that middle of the ice as much as possible, but eventually the speed is going to be on. And Carolina is a very fast team too. They could keep up with them, but eventually I just think the Devils sneak that one out. The Akira Schmid, I don't know. The half of it's like Sauter. I believe it's Schmid, but some people still say Schmid.
I think it's Schmid.
I think because they're used to who was the guy in Edmonton and Calgary wasn't there a Schmid? Wasn't there a
Vladislav?
Yeah,
Vladislav Schmid.
Yeah, but that was spelled differently. But I think a lot of people instinctively are saying that.
It was SMID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this Schmid, Akira, which is an awesome name, he's unproven, but he's starting to remind me.
He's starting to prove it.
He's starting to remind me of that run that a very young, unproven rookie went on a few years ago in GF Seguer, took the Ducks. Wasn't that the 2003?
I think that was the same one.
Nobody heard of him before the playoffs, and he took the Ducks to what?
The Cup final.
1 win away from the Cup.
Yeah,
When that
7 games.
win the 7 games. So starting to remind me of that.
He's the last Conn Smythe winner on the non-Cup final winning team, right?
I believe that is correct. So I think the Devils are going to get this one. I like the way they're going. It's going to be a great matchup between 2 really good coaches. The chess pieces getting moved around from game 1 to game 7 probably are going to be interesting to see. Should be a really good series. I just wished, and I'm sure everybody roots for Carolina does too. I wish Carolina was at full capacity because that would make this series even better. But it should be a fun one.
It's going to be great. That's going to be an exciting one. Yeah, it's God, I feel like Carolina. It's like they've been so good for so long, and maybe this is the year, but they just can't get over that hump.
Yeah,
it's got to be frustrating. Next up, and finally, we've got the Oilers and Golden Knights, 8:30 p.m. Chicago time on ESPN on Wednesday night. I've got the Oilers winning this one in 6. I've got the Oilers winning the Western Conference. Spoiler alert. I just feel like, once again, like now that Mike Smith is gone, it's just they've got so many freaking weapons. They're so fast. They're so deep. They're so good. I don't have a lot of belief in the Golden Knights, and I'll point to thumb. I haven't been really watching them as closely as some of the other games because I just typically don't find them that interesting. So they're probably a little bit better than I give them credit for. But this to me feels like the time the Oilers win the West. With Colorado out of the picture, I think that they are the best team remaining. So I'm going to pick them to win in 6.
I got the Oilers in 6. This is a Golden Knights team that I think can steal a few games. I think what it's going to come down to in the series is again, like defense, the depth, the goaltending. Those are all things that can carry you far in the postseason. And so far, Vegas has had a lot of good things working with that. Can Laurent Brossoit continue that against probably the best offensive team that is still around in the playoffs, especially at the top of their lineup? I think that's the big question, and I think Edmonton is just as close, if not maybe better, in depth and defense and goaltending than Vegas is. Like, that's pretty even. But at the top of the lineup, there's such a gap between what Edmonton has and what Vegas has that I got to go with Edmonton.
Yeah, I'm picking Edmonton in 6 as well. They are my Stanley Cup champion picks, so obviously I'm picking them here. I just don't think Vegas can match the speed over a 7-game series. You mentioned Laurent Brossoit. It's second time in as many rounds he's facing a former team.
Yeah.
But listen, these aren't the Winnipeg Jets.
What happens when you go to play a lot of teams, though?
What happens when you're a backup for most of your career and was for much of this season. These aren't the Winnipeg Jets. They're not going to fold the first time you put any kind of adversity against them. Mm-hmm. They're not having their head coach call them out, saying there's no pushback. Their coach isn't disgusted with them. Edmonton had plenty of opportunities to pack up the tent against LA. They're down 2-1 in the series and down 3-0 after the first period in Game 4, and then they didn't lose from there on out. Like, they've even in that Game 6, the clinching game, they gave up the lead and they came right back and scored. So if Vegas, starts to get some momentum, it's not going to crack Edmonton. They're on a mission this year. They've got the most complete team they've had in the Connor McDavid era. Now, there is kind of fun. You're gonna get McDavid versus Eichel in the playoffs. That's fun. I mean, they're the 1-2. I mean, sure. Jack Eichel's a pudwack, but it's
a canyon between those two, by the way.
Absolutely. But he's played really well. It's still, how often does that happen? I'm sure it does, but it's the first time that these two guys
from that
well-publicized draft are going to go head-to-head. They're the best player on each team. So, if Connor McDavid wasn't drafted that year and Jack Eichel was number 1, I think that'd be a justified pick. Outside of his attitude. On the ice, he's been a really, really good player. But Edmonton, I feel that this is their year. They've got the most complete team. They've got their bottom 6 contributing. That's just something they've never had in the past.
Their defense is more than adequate.
Absolutely. And I think Vegas has got too many guys on the downside of their career that are they can't. Mark Stone, sure, great defensive player. I've always thought Mark Stone was a wee bit overrated.
Got 5 assists.
He's a very good player.
Good.
But I've always like the Ed Olczyk love for Mark Stone, kind of like, he's great, but he's not that great.
But remember where Eddie's coming from too.
Right.
Playing in the era where Mark Stone would be that kind of a dude.
Yeah.
He's that kind of old school guy.
Saying a guy is overrated doesn't mean he's bad.
Sure.
But Mark Stone's a little bit overrated in my book. I don't think he's got the speed to keep up. I'm going to assume you're going to put him out there against McDavid. Eventually, McDavid is going to win that battle. I don't care how good you are. If you don't have the speed,
eventually McDavid wins every battle.
They might try and match Stone on Draisaitl more and just force McDavid to carry the Oilers like he always seems to do against this team. But even then, it's just like he can do that. So it feels like defensively what Vegas has to do is just limit everyone else and just make sure that like it becomes a 2-man game.
Right. And that's what the Kings couldn't do.
Right.
They couldn't stop those two or the rest of the team.
Well, I just think back to the series in the bubble, the Hawks against Edmonton, and it was just nonstop terror. Mm-hmm. Every time, 98 or 97 and 29 were on the ice, you're like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Yeah. And it felt like there was a chance every time they're on the ice, there is at least a quality scoring chance.
Because there is.
Yeah, and now
it doesn't seem that way. It is that way.
Yeah, and since then they've added depth. They've added, again, that adding Matthias Ekholm this year was huge for them. He's been great for them.
Evander Kane, love him or hate him.
He's been great.
This is his time of year.
Yeah, but
this is when he gets to be Evander Kane and applauded for it.
You find yourself a Pudwack, but you bring him into the right situation in the right locker room, like we were talking about. Now, I'm not going to put Blake Wheeler at Pudwack levels of Evander Kane. That's not fair. But we were talking about that yesterday. You got to get these guys in the right situation where.
I disagree with you.
Well, maybe, but different kind of Pudwack. Let's put it that way. I don't know. Yeah, I like you said, they've been that resilience they have lacked in the past. They have shown this year big time, and I always remember that's what Ken Hitchcock said about the Hawks. It's not about their. Maybe it wasn't resilience. Well, I guess I will forget it. Resolve was the word he used. Yeah. It's not their talent; it's their resolve, and the Oilers have seemed to find it, and we're going to see if the Maple Leafs found it too. Yeah, because I'm excited, man. These should be all these series are going to be great.
Yeah, I am rooting for the Oilers more than any other team, solely because I want to see Connor McDavid win a Stanley Cup. I want to see it.
Yeah,
he's the best player in the world. He deserves it.
You don't want to have the narrative of
You don't want him to be the Dan Marino of the NHL.
Oh, he never won, despite having 7,000 points a year.
Yeah. So I want to see Connor McDavid play every possible game he can play. I love watching him play the game of hockey. Yeah, it's a fun time. It's edge of your seat stuff. Every time he's on the ice, there literally could be a goal scored. Mm-hmm. Every time he touches the puck. So I want to see more of that. So go Oilers. And I don't like Vegas, so I hope.
You don't?
I don't.
Since when?
Since today. So, I'd love to see the Oilers just beat them up in 4 games, but they're going to get a couple wins there. They're still a very talented, deep veteran team. But eventually, Oilers just too much talent, too much speed.
I cannot wait to put a brand new ass groove in my couch tonight, just watching playoff hockey all night. It's going to be great. I'm so excited about it. But baseball season is also in full swing. Whether you're rooting for the home team or betting on your favorite player, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered for all this season's action. Right now, new customers can place a $5 pregame moneyline bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. Plus, everyone can hit one out of the park with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Boost your winnings with each leg you add up to 100%. Looking at the same-game parlays for today's Cubs-Nationals game, look at this one, plus 850. Plus 5 plus Hayden Wisniewski strikeouts. Ian Happ to get a single. Patrick Wisdom to get an RBI. Plus 850.
That's not bad.
That feels like free money. I'm just saying. Join the big league action now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app and sign up with code CHGO. New customers can bet just $5 on any pregame money line and get $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code CHGO. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. And in Kansas, I keep saying Kansas City. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700 on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and resort. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Nicely done.
Nicely done. Hey, I heard if there's a way that you can get a little more money in your pocket to throw in your DraftKings account and make some more bets. And that's where you save Monergy, which is a combination of money and energy through the ComEd Efficiency Program, which is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now into the future.
It's a lot of Monergy. ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across their territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities, like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
So if I wanted to save energy plus money, i.e. Monergy, tell me, how does that work?
There's a simple way to save Monergy. An authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually. Greg, I know you appreciate that. And they last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. So if you own a business, do not wait. Get started saving your Monergy. Money and energy today. For energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
Did you say ComEd.com/poweringbiz as in B-I-Z?
As in B-I-Z,
Nice.
Indeed. Schedule your appointment today.
All right, before we wrap up, a couple of people mentioned it in the chat. There is some news that the Penguins, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but Andy Strickland saying don't be surprised that there's mutual interest between he who shall not be named and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the name of Joel Quenneville is now resurfacing, even though he has not been reinstated by the league. Some interest in coaching circles for Joel Quenneville. So I think the three of us rather, should go on record. I'm going to go on record and say I don't think either of them should be allowed in a game ever again. I don't know why anyone would want to hire he who shall not be named, because he's the one who has the Hawks in this situation right now. But Stan Bowman, I said his name. Damn it!
But we're going to let you go because it's in
context.
It's in
of
context
Pittsburgh.
of another team,
Okay.
so it's allowed.
But Joel Quenneville completely turned a blind eye to what was happening to Kyle Beach and then lied about it. Said, all right, this is the first I've heard of it this summer, and then not true. And he who shall not be named was involved as well. And neither guy should be allowed in hockey, but that's hockey, baby. And they're going to be right back where they started from, in nice, cushy jobs, probably with raises and probably with promotions. So
Probably. I agree.
If you thought that those two were done with hocky, you are new to
oh
hockey.
yeah, no, I had no.
No, it's not a matter of
matter of
if,
time.
if
Yeah.
they get back, it's when. And it's
It's a shame.
I echo, neither of them deserve to have the privilege to have a job in the NHL after all that, but it is what it is. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. I love this sport, but I hate the culture.
Yep. And look, if you, especially for the Penguins, if you want to hire him, he shouldn't have the opportunity to have a job. If you want to hire him and bring his philosophy to your team, which is
no philosophy.
which is that's like the worst combination I could think of. A team that has older players on long-term deals and that has no farm system and that has no relative future, bringing him in to fix that, I don't know what you're looking for.
You were better off just keeping Hextall and Burke.
You
He's gonna
were
do the
better off.
same thing.
He's going to do the same thing those guys
He'll
were
do
doing.
the exact same thing. If you think he's going to come in with an eye towards the future and an eye towards new and rebuild and all that stuff, abso-freaking-lutely not. There's a reason that the Blackhawks are in this position, and there's many reasons he's not at the helm of it, but I think it'd be, it's there's enough of his resume to where you can say, you know what, he was kind of handed a brand new Corvette and he got the oil change and he checked the tire pressure, but eventually the friggin' transmission blew out and he didn't know what to do. So he just kept driving the car, and then it eventually went into the ground. So don't hand him another car.
I also can't think of a worse place for him to go.
Right.
This is what he can't do. Like you said, like this is I don't know, if you want him to like oversee the beginning of something new happening, and you
want to hand him a fully formed team and say, here, manage this. He could do it.
Sure.
He did it. If you want to give him a pile of ashes and say, hey, can you make this team better? He's not going to do it. He's just going to piss all over it.
Well, the one good thing, not that I want to get rid of him, but maybe now you find a taker for Seth Jones.
I'm
just kidding. I'm kidding.
Be nice to be on the
now there's a GM that might consider it.
Sure.
It would be nice to be on the other side of a Stan Bowman trade, wouldn't it?
It'd be nice.
Hey, as someone who does not care for the Pittsburgh Penguins, I'm all for it. Go for it, guys. Yeah. If you're going to bring him back, then this is not me saying I want him to come back. I don't think he should. I don't think he deserves to have another NHL, another hockey job. Period. Be it with Team USA, be it in the NHL, be it wherever. Neither of those guys should ever be allowed back. But they're going to come back. So if it's going to happen, all you Penguins.
Yeah, you'll lie in the bed you make.
Yep. Oh boy, it's just we knew it was going to happen. I don't know.
I just didn't think it would happen this quick. We're less than 2 years removed from it.
Yeah, I just don't understand people in the decision-making positions that they are looking at how things ended in Chicago and thinking, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's bring that in.
Shambles. Look at the Brent Seabrook contract.
It's
crazy. The Quenneville thing you get. There is no questioning that he is a great coach. He
can still be a great coach, but it's everything that happened and his involvement and the way it went down. It's bad.
Yeah.
So him as a hockey coach, if the Rangers want to go that way, I'm sure New York fans and they're able to look past things as long as you win games. So. That's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah, enjoy all the no movement clauses and high salaries and everything that Stan Bowman gives away.
If you want to be, if you want to be,
you had that with Ron Hextall. Why would you change?
If you want to be in cap hell and not contend, you could have just kept all the guys that you had.
You didn't need to make a change.
Yes, yeah. All right, well, we'll see. Hopefully, I don't know. It's just kind of a bummer. You feel like things are kind of moving on and. The sport's evolving, but it's not. It's not. These same people will keep landing in successful jobs over and over and over again, regardless of their missteps along the way. Either hockey missteps or more moral missteps.
Right.
Yeah, as long as you've got that championship on your resume, you'll always have a job.
That's right. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate that. Reminder to smash that like button on your way out and subscribe to our YouTube page if you're not already. Subscribe on our podcast apps as well, Spotify, Apple Pods, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, of course. You can get our podcast. It's available everywhere. And follow us on Twitter at CHGO_Blackhawks. I'm doing a quick check of our Twitter followers. 5,916. Help us get to 6,000.
What's happening here?
Very, very soon.
Someone's trying to cast something to our screen.
That's very weird.
All right.
We got to get out of here.
Let's not do that. All
7,
right.
6, 5.
We'll talk to you tomorrow on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.